Hi there, it's time to use the Wyckoff lens to look at ZCash again. And if you're new to my sessions, here are the key takeaways you can expect from the session. I'll cover these 3 points and let's move to the weekly chart. So last week I shared this channel box and I said if the price successfully stays above this box, the uptrend may continue. However, it fiercely declined or rejected the idea. Not that it's completely over yet, but it looks like to me it's more repeating what happened over 8 years ago when I first included a ZCash session. I already shared. If you want to know, you can go back to that first session of ZCash I did after it pumped 30 times, okay? Assuming this trend, we're going to continue to adjust the box, but to me, it's more like it's repeating what happened back in 2017-18. So remember in that session, I shared with you about this particular scenario, that it climbed quickly from the long-term playground zone. So this solid white box with all the colorful lines, key levels within, because ZCash price range is just so drastic. So what happened was, over 70-80% of the time, ZCash has been trading within this long-term playground zone. Okay? And I said in the session that that particular period, it climbed in a matter of at most 2 months from that particular level to the very peak. Much like what happened this time. In a matter of about 8 weeks, it climbed to the buying climax at this stage. At that time, I was asking, what's that actually the buying climax, or is it going to go any further? And now it has been confirmed. And the automatic reaction, okay, that's the interesting part now. What happened 8 years ago? Okay. Reaction was from the buying climax down to the automatic reaction. Line is, you see this white line, the wick. So we are at a similar level now. Okay, so there may be a chance that small rebound. Okay, if nothing particularly crazy happen, if it does, if there's some crazy good news come out, that would be a second test, going back to somewhere close to the buying climax. But if it doesn't, there may be a tiny bit of rebound around to 430 roughly. If we look at here, this one bounce back to around 450. Okay, so somewhere around 430 to 450 is what we would potentially see. Okay, if the price is really going to rebound and show us a last point of supply. And if it's like the unfortunate case that it repeats or acts very closely to what happened 7-8 years ago, that's where it's coming back to. At least the middle, if not the bottom of the long-term playground zone, this white box. Okay, so be really careful if you're trying to catch the falling knife and seeing the rebound. That may be the final call before the termination to the actual low point where the selling climax may appear. Okay, so it may be coming back to the accumulation cycle, just that it's still early and we still haven't seen any kind of initial buying from the whales. And that leads to the interesting thing I have brought in but haven't added to the chart yet because I want to do it with you together. That's more interesting. So we've got the blue tags for the distribution cycle. These are behaviors, mapping to those stages, because you always hear me talking about this. Selling climax, automatic rally, test, spring, sign of strength, that kind of thing, backup last one support. But what actually are people doing during those stages, or what leads to those stages showing up. Why or what people are doing to lead to that kind of pattern. So we are close to this accumulation cycle back in 2002 all the way into September 2005. Let's start with this one. All right. So initially there was a panic sell period. Where's the deck? Yeah, panic sell. So I'm trying to get this over here. That's the PS, preliminary support. That's where panic selling happens while the whales trying to start to bottom. That's actually some people buying. Okay, and then selling climax is where volume drops to a low level compared to the previous period, and that the panic is over. Afterwards, we've got the automatic rally, where it defines the accumulation cycle trading area top. Okay, you see the trading, other than the sign of strength, sometimes goes above it. Most of the time, the price has been trading below the cycle top. Sign of strength is where, after a prolonged period of tests, these tests are tests of weak hands versus diamond hands. Until the point there are no more weak hands, the price can't go any further down. Then the sign of strength comes, and it advances with the price advances with volume higher than the previous prolonged period of testing. All right, and eventually we get to the backup or last point of support period, where we would potentially see some track back from the sign of strength, and also from the resistance or support level. That's probably where the whales got in or put in their last bet before the price shoot up. Alright, that's the accumulation cycle. And then the distribution. Alright, we are halfway through the distribution right now. Let's use I haven't tagged the one on the left. Let's use the one we have right now. Basically, the PSY period that we have gone through is way, way, way higher. Okay, somewhere around here. That should be good enough. Oh, it's even further out. Alright, so let's drag it down a little, because that's where I'm trying to point to. You see this yellow, this red candle in the middle, right? And the wicks from the top, at the top. That's actually whales starting to offload some of their stock in hand. They're not going to wait till the peak. They offload along the way, and then what drove the price to the very top was actually the retail FOMO. Okay, I'm going to move these to over here. It's not offloading, sorry. It's first selling over here at the PSY, and then retail FOMO pushed the price to the very high level. Whales offloading happens around the second test or the LPSY. So in the subsequent stages, whales continue to offload until the point they see, okay, it's time to get out completely. And then they offload everything. Second test after us, obviously, is the late FOMO or fake boo. So people trying to catch the falling knives, thinking the price will get back to the previous high or even setting all-time high. So that's where that comes in. And that explains what's actually happening during those periods. Let's get to the daily chart. I adjusted the box, but remember, this is not the likely case. I'm just giving a slim chance of, or slim bit of hope to whoever's still thinking the uptrend may still come back. Another reference line that if it dips further below it, it's going to turn into a flat box, and when that happens, that essentially is more or less like the long-term playground zone, and we can delete that afterwards. So the yellow dashed line over here, I believe I took reference from the peak 8 years ago. Okay, this time it did not happen. It may come back, we don't know, because sometimes the market is just crazy. Alright, so previously I've already tagged these distribution stages. So these are daily time frame tags. So they are different from the weekly. And this is more experimental because Wyckoff method works on a longer time frame. Alright? Here, we've gone through this late FOMO period, the second test, and then obviously the whales are offloading, keep offloading, keep offloading. The sign of weakness has appeared. It's basically a point lower than the automatic reaction because that was supposed to set the horizontal trading range with the buying climax. Alright, and now we are below that level. And that's why I said, the sign of weakness, when it gets to a point that people think it has dropped enough, they may buy in, and that's when we're going to get another LPSY. Not that it must happen. This sign of weakness, well, let's put it over here because there's a little bump over here. That, if you're straightly defining it by saying it has to go below the automatic reaction to be a sign of weakness, that's also fine. I'm putting it over here because if the price continues to go down and doesn't come back up, right? That means there's no sign of weakness over here. It's just straight all the way to the PS, the preliminary support stage of. So we're having this long candlestick with big price spread and also increased volume. If this trend continues, this means it's going straight back to accumulation in the daily time frame. In the weekly, that's going to be exactly the same this time because it has been happening so quickly and rapidly. There's no pause in between. Alright, it's 3 red long candle already. There were somebody buying the dip at this point, but I guess they are regretting right now. If they have set stop loss, that's probably have protected them. Remember, this offloading period is, or the panic sell period, is not something fun unless you're trading the other way. You're putting it or shorting it, then you're making big money. Alright, thanks for joining me.